Yes, indeed, folks, tune into Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Salt the Biscuit. It's a ranty show today, really. I don't have a lot of positive things to say, let me put it that way. Sorry, but that's just the breaks, you know. We went through all the positive stuff towards the start of the expansion, and now it's starting to show that, you know, someone needs to start greasing the wheels a little before they fall off. Right, talked a little bit about Old World versus New World content, but I'd like to talk to you about how we got here in the first place. And I'm going to put the blame squarely on one particular group of people, and this section ain't not going to be pleasant. At all. So, you know, let me just warn you of that. Blizzard are big boys, they can take it. If I didn't like the game, I wouldn't be continuing to play it. It's just the way of it. Now, I ask you a question. The question is, well, what's worse than the guy who always stands in the fire? I mean, we're not talking about a guy who just makes a mistake in a raid. You know, that happens. Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes. You know, I died on Thaddeus a couple of weeks ago. It happens. But the guy who every attempt always stands in the fire. You knew that guy. There's always one of those guys. If any of you ever did Arkham on before Nerf, then you'd have known about the guy who stood in the fire. There's plenty of other areas where the guy stood in the fire. I mean, it goes back as far as Magmadar. You know, that had fire on the floor. There was the guy who stood in the fire. Ended up getting the con flag, ended up dying. So, plenty of people like that. Well, I ask you this. Well, what's worse than the guy who makes mistakes over and over again? I mean, someone who makes mistakes over and over again, they're not just a bad player. I mean, someone that makes the same mistake over and over again in life is just an idiot. I mean, that's just the way of it. Fool me once, shame on you, you know, fool me twice, shame on me kind of thing. What's worse than that guy? Well, I'll tell you what's worse than that guy. The bleeding heart apologist that defends that guy. And I'm not kidding, this is a growing breed of malcontents that exist mostly from what I've seen on the WoW forums. I've started posting it on the WoW forums, which was a bad idea because the EU side, they are so dead. I mean, you look at the amount of views that most of the posts have got, hell, most of them have got less views than our forums, and our forums are supposed to be like tiny in comparison. But no, I mean, the EU forums are just so completely dead. And the signal-to-noise ratio on there is a disgrace. I mean, you just go there right now. Let's have a look at general discussion. Look how many pointless posts. Look, it's another Recruit a Friend post. Yet there's an entire mega thread about this. And people keep posting like 5 threads a day about Recruit a Friend. Get your mum to draw the Lich King. So why did you come back? New hero class, what do you want? Gold spent at the barber shop. This feature is killing my wallet. Some guy spends so much money at the barbershop, apparently it deserves a thread of its own. Lesbian, gay, bi, and transsexual players of the WoW community is currently the most popular post, for what I could see on there. And that's only because a bunch of militants from both sides decided to get in there and start insulting everyone. How much gold do you have? Name one impossible wish for WoW. The profanity filter and misspelling swear words. Like, what? There's not a single good thread on this entire page. I mean, there's nothing constructive. If you could take one class out of the game, what would it be? You know, it's like the things that girls, like 12-year-old twin girls, talk about at sleepovers between reading their battered old copies of Twilight. It's pathetic. Can't even talk about anything of substance. I mean, the raid forum's not much better. I mean, you'd think the raid forum would be where the good discussions go on, but no. Actually, it's not. It's an eternal battle between so-called casuals who, you know, we can class as entitled casuals, the actual casuals who still want challenging content, the elitist hardcore players who are way too elitist for their own good. I mean, I don't know how you can be elitist in Wrath. I mean, everyone and their mother could pretty much beat everything that's in it, unless you're a terminal buffoon. And then the apologists who are apologizing for whatever side. It's a giant circle jerk of failures. Now, I'm of the firm belief at this point that bleeding heart apologists and the people that they apologise for are partially responsible for the mess that we're currently in. Now, the rationale that I have behind this is quite simple. TBC content, initially, was pretty much tuned too hard in almost every occurrence. We start off with, say, Karazhan. Karazhan was tuned way too hard at the beginning, and it got nerfed. Gruul was tuned way too hard, so much so that barely anyone actually managed to kill Gruul pre his first nerf. TK was tuned way too hard. SSC was tuned way too hard. They nerfed... Let me think. Did they nerf? Yeah, they did. They nerfed Mount Hyjal a bit. They didn't seem to nerf Black Temple too much. Black Temple was pretty much tuned right. And Sunwell, Muru was tuned way too hard, to the point where only 8 guilds managed to kill Muru pre-nerf. Now, so you can see that there's an argument there that TBC's content was initially always tuned too high. However, what happened in TBC, which was actually, in my opinion, a very successful way of doing things, was to start it off too hard and then gradually nerf it down. Until, of course, they got to patch 3.0, at which point they slashed everything by like 30%, and even a drunken monkey could go and kill the content. And most hardcore guilds, from what I could see, by reading sites such as Elitist Jerks and stuff like that, seem to be alright with that. And we had Insidia on Pug, like, about a month or two ago, and we asked them about the 30% nerf, and they were like, yeah, this is actually a good way to do it. It's okay, because we don't just want the content to be exclusive to us, we want everyone to see it, but we want to have a crack at it when it's still challenging. So nerf it down in stages. And I was okay with that. I'm alright with it. I think it's pretty cool. I didn't get to experience any of Sunwell post-nerf, because I'd quit before Sunwell had even come on, you know, so it's not really a big deal for me. But it's kind of disappointing that I'm going to go back to Sunwell with the old-school raiding guild, and we're going to find it a lot easier than it should be. It'd be nice if they tuned it back to the way it was before, now that it's, you know, irrelevant content. Problem is that most of TBC was consisting of whining and whining and whining about PvE content. The PvE content was too hard. It was. I mean, really. The fact that there was perhaps less interest in World First didn't really help matters either. There was a lot of interest pre-TBC in World First and stuff like that, so the competitive edge, bleeding edge of hardcore raiding was actually more of a big deal. TBC, a little bit less so, at least from what I could tell. There was less interest in who was doing that. I mean, the only big kill, from what I could tell, was, well, I mean, Kill Jaden, most people didn't even care. That was the sad thing. Illidan was a big deal, because we thought Illidan, well, he was going to be quite hard. And it was going to take a little bit of work to kill Illy. But no, Illy went down pretty quick. As Illy tends to. Har har. So, the problem is we've had 2 years of complaining and whining that the content was too difficult. And of course, Blizzard has pandered. They've pandered to these guys. And they've double pandered. Well, you know, what they've done is, it's possibly even triple pandered. They have pandered too much. They have overdone it. Now, when they announced that we're going to do 10/25 man versions of everything, I was initially annoyed. Because I thought, oh, well, you know, it's reuse of content. It means that most guilds are going to have to go through the same content twice with a few minor additions. It's going to be an excuse not to produce more content. And then I kind of came around to the idea thinking, well, actually, if Blizzard pull this off, what they can do is they can make the 10-man the easy mode stuff for the so-called casuals that can't beat it. And it's like, if you want instances that scrubs can do, fine. Okay, that's fine. Go and do the 10-mans or whatever, and that's cool. And they seem to have tuned the 10-mans to the right level. So I'm alright with that. The problem is, after then visiting the 25-man, I noticed, oh, actually, this is pretty much exactly the same thing. And indeed, in some instances, it's actually easier. So no, it's not actually that. It's like, let's go do the same content twice, but one gives better loot than the other, and has a few minor additions. So I was like, right, what were my initial fears? Oh yeah, the content would be repetitious. Proven to be true. That content would end up being too easy. Proven to be true. That it would be an excuse for Blizzard not to produce enough instances. Oh look, proven to be true. My worst fears came to reality. Why? You know, why did they come to reality? I mean, it seemed to me like the perfect opportunity to balance the content in such a way that scrub casuals or whatever, you know, proper casuals, and you know, I never understood the argument that casuals can't do 25-man content. Can you not get 24 other casuals and do it? I've seen plenty of people do that. It's not a big deal. I mean, we've blasted through the content, and we can do Nax in like 3 hours, and then go do Malagos and Sartheron in like 10 minutes each. And VOA, well, we're not even going to talk about that joke. So, where's the lack of casual in that? You can clear all the content in there, if you're good, in 4 hours. And last time I checked, being good had nothing to do with being casual. And therein lies the problem. We've got people who have said, oh, well, I have a life. I am casual. I want things for me. Who have now become the demographic, the target demographic. And it's never been this bad before. I mean, casual players have always been a demographic, don't get me wrong. One of the primary demographics, one might say. But so far, Blizzard at least pre-Wrath, managed to resist the temptation of pandering too much to those guys. Because pandering too much to one particular group is a bad idea. Of course it's a bad idea. Why wouldn't it be? Problem, of course, now is that they've gone all the other way. And it's obvious. And the worst thing is, we've got even more people defending this. It's like this evidence is staring you in the face as a player that the stuff is way too easy. It's being said everywhere. You've got people pugging all the content. All of it. Within a month or so of the game launching. If you're not alarmed by that, I would like to ask you what planet you're from. Because seriously, that is alarming. It really is. That has never happened before in WoW. Not even close. Not even close. And people are still defending these guys, saying, oh, well, we don't want more difficult content because now it's balanced around the average player. No, it's not. The average player is the guy that shows up for a raid every now and again, does his role, does what he's supposed to do, maybe makes a mistake every now and again, but plays his class. He's not exceptional. He's not like the OMG best player ever, but he's good enough at what he does. He follows instructions and he gets it done. Now, when content was tuned too hard, yes, the average player would have to struggle. But generally speaking, the average player would clear a good amount of that content. They wouldn't necessarily clear all of it, but then again, why should they? If they're not good enough, it's like saying, oh, well, I should be able to beat a game. Oh, I can't beat the game because it's too hard, so I'll use cheats. It's like, well, if you're doing it on your own accord, then that's fine, you go do that. But it doesn't mean you've got the proper experience. I mean, in my opinion, raiding in Wrath is just so incredibly diluted that the people doing it don't have and are not receiving the experience of what raiding is all about. What they're seeing is a bigger 5-man. It's a 25-man dungeon that's pretty much on the difficulty level of the average heroic. Indeed, I would argue that most of 25-man Nax is actually easier than heroic and Kahet. Horrible place that it is. Or heroic Oculus or whatever. That's what they're getting. That is the experience of raiding that they're getting. It's like, that is the average Joe. No, the average Joe has cleared everything. The average Joe, indeed, I would say the lower than average Joe is the guy who pugs Nax 25 and ends up getting a bunch of loot. Why are these people being defended? Why is it it's like, oh, we should make WoW around these people? No, you shouldn't. Because then you've got millions, and I do mean millions of people, who are clearing the content and not feeling satisfied as a result, because everyone else and their mother has done it. Epics are not epic if everyone is wearing them. That's the whole point. So I cannot understand the view of apologists that say, well, that's how it should be tuned. There's no excuse anymore. They've come up with 2 genius mechanics that could be used to properly balance content for all levels of skill. They've got the 10 and 25 man, i.e. they have heroic versions of dungeons, and they've got the hard mode. Yeah? The Sartheron protocol, as we're going to call it. You can ramp up the difficulty optionally. Unfortunately, it was only put into 1 encounter. And the main dungeon doesn't have anything like that. Not at all, unless you're going for achievements, and they don't yield anything, and some of them are just stupid. It's like, you could do a lower theb without the spores. Right, so that's this fight where I have to sit there for 20 minutes pressing the frost fireball button. Great! That's fun! Yeah, I'm really looking forward to attempting that one. Our guild refuses to do it, because it is just so boring. Why would you want to? The only fun element of the lower theb fight is the ability to crit like a truck. Yes, crit happens when it comes to lower theb. That's the only fun bit of the fight. The rest of it is utterly and totally tank and spank. It is literally a dumber encounter than something in Molten Core. I would say Lucifron is a more challenging encounter than the current version of 25-man lower theb. It is. And that's what's really sad about the whole thing. This is what the entitled casuals have brought down on our heads, and their apologists continue to defend them. I cannot imagine what brings somebody to do that. Do you hate people that don't suck? I mean, do you not can't you get it through your heads that your normal, everyday, I have a life, job, wife, career person That's the kind of person that is able to listen to instructions, follow instructions, correctly prioritize their time, and do what they're supposed to do. That is how you are successful in life. Those are key skills of people who have proper lives. The people who lack those are the people who also lack proper lives. So to turn around and say, oh, well, you know lifers ain't getting any more content, cry more, is the most moronic thing I have ever heard in my life. Lack a basis in reality. Along with Blizzard at the moment, if they think this stuff is acceptable, because it's not. It's dumb. The entire set of content is dumb, and it needs to be sorted out right now. And I don't mean 3 months, I mean soon, before people go and play a better game. My name's Total Biscuit, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. We've got some new Captain Dan for you at Ship to Ship. This track contains strong language. Enjoy.